Controversial opinion, I think Rey and Kylo are actually pretty interesting characters.
You're a traitor and I want a divorce.
Oh.
Tell your fans to buy my shit or leave my house.
Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart and welcome to the video essay section of the channel that ruins my reputation, gets me the most hate comments out of all my material. If you're new here, feel free to check out my long-term Pokemon D&D campaign that no one watches, my D&D stories that some people watch, or the videos where I steal content from Reddit that a lot of people seem to watch. Today, we'll be looking at the two Force-sensitive characters from our new Disney-era Star Wars movies, Rey from Jakku and Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren. Throughout this video, we will be analyzing their words, actions, and character development throughout The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi to see where they progress as characters on our D&D alignment chart. If you aren't sure how we measure alignment in the series, be sure to check out my Shrek video. It breaks down how we view alignment very specifically. Now, just to address the rancor in the room, this video is not meant to be a review of the quality of the last two movies. However, I will be giving sprinkles of my opinions throughout this video. Plenty of other YouTubers have thoroughly deconstructed the movie, and I don't particularly want to throw my saber into that ring just yet. And while I found the last two movies frustrating in their own right, I feel that our two focused characters were at least interesting. In one corner, we have Ben Solo, the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa. As a child, he was raised as a Jedi by his uncle Luke Skywalker. From the beginning, he had a fascination with the dark side of the Force and his grandfather, Darth Vader. Because of this fascination, suspicion was cast on him from his master, and in a night of confusion, Kylo and Luke came to blows. In a rage, he lashed out and killed the other students and burnt down the Jedi Temple. Since then, he serves Supreme Commander Snoke and the First Order. Kylo Ren is the heir to the greatest bloodline of Force users ever known. He's powerful, has a unique design, and is just the biggest, angriest baby. I don't know why, but I really love angry, powerful, immature characters like this when it's done well. He's a villain of his own volition, and there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with him. While he remains loyal to Snoke, he does seem to have his own ambitions and will frequently disregard orders given to him by those in authority and has a history of rebelling against them, sometimes quite violently. Because I do not find him loyal enough to be lawful, but also not quite wild enough to be chaotic, I'll say at the start of the movies, Kylo's alignment is a solid neutral evil. However, as something a little bit different this time around, we will also slant his alignment to be slightly on the chaotic side. Some people tend to call this rebel evil, but for the sake of this video, we will still consider him the original. Some of you in the comments might be asking, if we're skewing alignments now, why don't we just put him towards neutral? Sometimes called impure. This question is not unreasonable since both Ben and Snoke say that he feels a pull towards the light. However, I really hesitate to do that since at the beginning of The Force Awakens, he has no problem being cruel or deadly or using dark side powers without any hesitation. Rey, however, is a tougher nut to crack. A lot of issues with her is that we barely know anything about her. J.J. Abrams, the director of The Force Awakens, has used a writing technique called the mystery box in order to increase audience intrigue into her character and development. We only see snippets of her past and backstory, and what we do see often raises more questions and brings about more mysteries. And frustratingly, the writer of the second movie seemed wholly uninterested in fleshing this out. However, here's what we do know. According to Kylo and some flashbacks we see in various Force visions, Rey was abandoned on a desert planet called Jakku. While growing up as a child on this planet, she became a junker. Life on this coarse, rough, and irritating planet taught her many skills that she quickly excelled in, including mechanical engineering, piloting, fighting, and that's about all we know. There are some interesting things about Rey, but without labeling her with the dreaded M word, let's try describing her super quick. Some people say she doesn't have flaws, but actually that's not true. She seems to have an obsession with reuniting with her parents to the point of actual detriment. She is lonely to the point of latching on to anyone who gives her positive attention. And very clearly she has daddy issues considering she goes through father figures faster than a JRPG protagonist. She also romanticizes the old legends and is brought to shock and awe when she encounters Han Solo and is told the truth about the original trilogy. As for her starting alignment, we will be starting her at neutral good, leaning towards towards true neutral. She seems to be a noble idealist. When she discovered that BB-8 and Finn were a part of the Resistance, she jumped into action to help them right away. She seems to have a penchant for helping the weak, as seen as an immediate help with BB-8, but she also isn't above ignoring others when she needs to focus on herself. For that, we will place her in an area that many consider to be neutral moral. Now, normally this is the part where I do a cute little intro with a title card and we'll go dun 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 dun, but before we do that, I need to talk a little bit about some concepts that need to be established before we dive into these announcements. Namely, we need to establish two different things: the Force and people's perspective surrounding it. Star Wars is weird. Throughout the series, there's a complex magic system in play called the Force. The Force is weird. In the original series, it is meant to be this vague force throughout the universe that lets certain characters do things that are vaguely magic. Telekinesis, lesser mind control, clairvoyance, things like that. But since the first movie, it's expanded into all sorts of crazy powers, including Art of the Small, Breath Control, Force Body, Force Smell, Animal Friendship, Droid Disabled, Brain Knowledge, Force Judgment, Confusion, Speed, Sith Alchemy, Thought Bomb, Revelation, Force Play, Force Slow, Force Wave, Force Choke, Torture by Bridge, Midichlorian Manipulation, Battle Meditation, Conceal Other, Teleportation, teleportation? However, many of these powers show up in non-canon material and don't necessarily play a direct role in what we're about to discuss, except for two big ones: the light side and dark side of the Force. You see, Star Wars, like many fantasy series, has a built-in alignment system to its magic. Light side powers are protection-based, and all their powers rely on pacifying or defending themselves or others. To master the light is to master self-control, patience, discipline, and generally things that work towards the benefit of people. Jedi mastered these powers because they would put others before themselves, and thus tended to align to an either positive or good side to the alignment spectrum. In short, do good things, get light side powers. Dark side powers are tied to aggressive emotions: pain, anger, harm. Dark side powers are almost always designed to hurt, harm, or otherwise take away from others. In order to train with the dark, you need to practice to enhance these abilities. Or the more evil you do, the stronger that you become with the dark side, because dark side powers are all based on the benefit of oneself. As Anakin said, the Sith's powers come from their passions and attachments, and the fastest way to master dark side powers is to do evil things. Now, we know with our modern sensibilities that looking out for number one doesn't necessarily make you an evil person, as many of you pointed out in my Rick video. And several of you expanded universe nerds could cite several sources where there are dark Jedi or light side Sith, but Rey and Kylo do not have the benefit of that history. Disney has struck away that part of the canon. And this is where the perspective of our characters' decisions will really start to affect their alignment choices. Because of the way dark side and light side of the Force work, and because of the understanding of our characters, sometimes their actions may be considered good or evil because of how they will be acting incongruent with their perceptions of the Force. Also, their knowledge and opinion of the Force changes over the course of the movies, so this is actually a rather complicated process. For example, in The Last Jedi, Rey starts experimenting and flirting with the dark side of the Force despite Luke Skywalker's warnings. In her whole understanding of the Force, using dark side powers or even listening to the dark is dangerous and could turn you evil just by listening to it. At that moment in the movie, she is committing an evil action from the black and white perspective that she understands. In Star Wars, using dark side powers is kinda like making a deal with the devil. Yes, you may have the best of intentions sometimes, but everyone knows that doing so is dangerous not only to yourself, but those around you. And that's because you don't know the agenda of the dark person you're making the deal with. Or at the very least, it can't be good. And with that, we'll be going through The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi to determine what alignment Kylo and Rey start out at, and what they end up at the end of those movies. Ren kills Tekka for really no reason. Presumably it was because Kylo knew him from his childhood, and in doing so would increase his dark side connection. He would have actually been more useful as a prisoner. Chaotic evil. A big theme of Rey's character is loneliness. She ignores all other citizens of Jakku to focus on herself. Neutral. Rey rescues a random droid from a scavenger. Neutral good.
Comfortable?
Kylo lets the First Order torture Poe before using the Force to extract the info. He then lets the soldiers go after the map. Lawful evil. Rey isn't afraid to jump to violence quickly and beats the hell out of Finn and the other scavengers. Chaotic good. Kylo goes absolutely berserk on the computers after learning that BB-8 got away. He also then threatens Lieutenant Mitaka and learns about Rey. Chaotic neutral. Rey flips a bunch of buttons on a ship she doesn't know in the hopes that it will help in some way. Chaotic neutral. Kylo swears to Snoke that he won't be seduced by the light, and that his personal connection to Han Solo won't interfere with his mission. Lawful evil. Rey turns down Solo's job offer for the sake of returning to her parents one day. Neutral. Kylo prays to Vader for guidance and advice on how to avoid the light side of the Force. Lawful evil.
Come with me.
Rey rejects Finn's offer to run away and encourages him to help the Resistance. Neutral good. Rey runs away from the literal call to adventure in tears, less than 5 minutes after she chastises Finn for doing the exact same thing. Chaotic neutral. Rey and Kylo's first interaction. Kylo fails to penetrate Rey's mind, and instead gets read himself. He panics and tells his boss in the hopes that he can turn her. Lawful evil. Rey in turn resists Kylo's mind control and stands in defiance of his interrogation. While this isn't a moral decision per se, she could either talk or be subjected to whatever the First Order does for torture. Lawful good. Kylo again goes berserk on a control console. Chaotic neutral. Kylo kills Solo with the intent of becoming closer to the dark side of the Force. Chaotic evil. Rey attempts to avenge Han Solo by attacking Kylo immediately after he murders Han. Chaotic good. Traitor! Ren chastises Finn for leaving the First Order, calling him a traitor to their cause. Lawful evil. Rey puts her desires on hold in order to help the Resistance by finding Skywalker. Lawful good.
Bested by a girl.
Kylo is chastised by Snoke after he's beaten by Rey. Ren then stands up to strike him but gets knocked back by Force lightning. And then Kylo responds to this by smashing his helmet in a symbolic gesture that he is killing the past and going for a fresh start. Chaotic neutral.
He's only getting stronger.
Rey spends a great deal of time and patience trying to convince the depressed Jedi to return. Lawful good. Kylo, sensing his mother was on deck, refused to fire on her despite having no issues about killing Han or the other Resistance members. Even though it was short-lived, chaotic good. Rey shoots Kylo first rather than ask questions about their Force call. Chaotic neutral. Kylo and Rey had their first Force connection. Rey lashes out while Kylo instead is intrigued. He even tried connecting with her. Neutral. Rey immediately goes to the dark side of the Force for answers because she felt Luke didn't give her any satisfactory ones. Neutral evil.
Murderous snake.
Rey chastises Kylo about being a monster for killing his father, but has doubts the more she learns. Neutral. In turn, Kylo calmly accepts Rey's scolding, but also asks her if she knows the detail about the night that Kylo destroyed the Jedi Temple. Also neutral.
I don't understand.
No.
Rey once again chastises Ben about what he did, but has doubts, trying to come to grips with the fact that the situation isn't black and white. She's hearing two different accounts of the night, and she seems to want to believe both of them. Neutral. Kylo tells Rey the truth about the past. He is still trying to bring her to his side. There aren't any hints of redemption quite yet, but he does seem like there is some reasoning to his darkness. Lawful neutral. For all Rey knows, this is the home to the dark side of the Force. From her perspective, she is willing to put others in danger in order to get answers, because she knows that if she falls to the dark, others will suffer. Honestly, it's one of Rey's most compelling scenes, but totally chaotic evil.
It isn't too late.
This is just straight up one of the best scenes of the movie. Rey and Kylo, despite their differences, find common ground in their loneliness. Their masters have failed them. Their pasts are muddy and awkward. Their future is uncertain, but still theirs. Rey tries to turn Ben back to the light, and Ben seemingly gives her a chance and starts to see her point of view. Neutral good.
Did you do it? Did you create Kylo Ren?
Rey attacks Luke for trying to kill Ben. She insists that if she goes back to him, Ben Solo will turn. She offers Luke one last chance to rejoin the Resistance, but leaves to help Ben turn back to the light, saying that he is their last hope. Lawful good. Another Nat 20 scene. Ben kills Snoke to protect Rey. He turns on the First Order and everything he's been working for from her influence. Chaotic good. In turn, Rey fights the Resistance alongside Kylo, protecting him and destroying the last remains of darkness. Lawful good.
Join me.
Ben offers Rey a seat at his side. No more Jedi, no more Sith. Neutral. Just a new order throughout the galaxy. God, I wish the movie ended here. Rey rejects Kylo and attempts to take back the Skywalker lightsaber and accidentally destroys it. She then runs to the planet to save the others. Lawful good.
The Supreme Leader is dead.
In turn, Kylo then becomes the Supreme Leader of the First Order and then heads down to the planet to destroy the last of the Resistance. Kylo forgets the lessons he's learned throughout the movie and goes back to being the angry, screaming baby at the beginning. Guys, I know I said I would try to keep the review out of this, and I meant it, but these movies were just incredibly frustrating. Our characters started out on the respected side of the alignment charts and ended up pretty much at the exact same place. I'm frustrated, not because I love Star Wars or anything like that. I'll even admit I'm not that big of a fan. I'm frustrated because these movies failed these characters. Now, Kylo was always kind of interesting, but I'm also very biased. I like the powerful, immature baby archetype, and the movie was doing well handling him. There was this very easy, rage-filled villain, but there was also some intrigue. His past and the theme of Star Wars itself has always been the hope hiding within the darkness and the idea that anyone can change. Him going back to the dark just utterly ruins every bit of character development he had throughout the movie. You could say it's realistic, but it's gross. And from a writing standpoint, utterly is just awful. You set up all of these subverting expectations, and that would have been a great subversion.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
This was a great theme of this movie, and if getting rid of the Jedi and the Sith were the direction that they were going in, it would have been great. Rey had some interesting possibilities too. There's a lot of valid complaints about this character, but I don't think her arcs were ever about training or developing her powers. There are some stories where having an extremely talented or powerful protagonist can work, but you need their conflict and growth to come from other places. Like I mentioned earlier, Rey could have easily had arcs where she gets to overcome her parental issues or her hopeless idealism. However, as it stands, Rey just seems too perfect and too good. The movies just kind of work around her, and it's more like the movies are saying that all of the other characters in the movie failed her personally, rather than any failure on her part. In fact, in The Empire Strikes Back, that was the whole point of Luke's arc. His idealism, lost him everything. He fell for the trap. But I guess Rey is immune to that. Easily the most interesting parts of these movies were the 4 Skype call connections between Ben and Rey. They were so engaging because we could actually see the conflicts in both of them. Rey realizing that things weren't quite black and white, and Kylo beginning to come around to the fact that there's always time to do the right thing. Granted, we still have another movie left to go. Rise of Skywalker comes out soon, and it's possible that these story arcs could be salvaged. Now, I know some people will be very offended with what I'm about to say, but Kylo's character arc right now is kinda similar to Zuko's from Avatar. They are both rage-filled characters that have issues with their fathers and have internal struggles about what they want with their own personal philosophies. Now, there are lots of extreme differences in how those characters were handled, but at the very least, there are parallels that we can draw from. Maybe one day we'll do an alignment video on Zuko? Either way, if you want, feel free to head over to my Patreon, and there's a free poll that anyone can take that will decide the next video to drop in January. I'm thinking Mewtwo from the Pokemon movies, or Alistair from Hazbin Hotel, or maybe just Deadpool. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.